All right. And there we go. Okay. So, hello, Muses, and welcome back to my studio for Council of Muses Open Studio on Wednesday, March 17th. And as we always do, I want to open with just a sort of a few deep cleansing breaths so that we can really bring ourselves here into this now moment to be present with the work that we have come to do. And perhaps thinking about what we might want to call in for ourselves as we do this as well, whether it's playfulness or insight or whatever you might most be in need of today. And so we'll let's close our eyes and take a deep breath in. And as we breathe out, releasing anything that has been burdening us or creating stress for us today. And one more. And out again. And one more in. And one more out again. Because sometimes life is like that. It might take more than one cleansing breath to truly let the rest of the day stay in the past and come here into this moment. And now, another deep breath in and reaching our heartstrings out to all of the women and now and those who may watch this later, connecting to them and sending out compassion and welcome and support for each other. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out. And when you're ready, just slowly open your eyes, shrug your shoulders, and just come back here to our gathering together online. I always like to open these sessions with a red thread inquiry that's sort of comes up from been happening in my world. To one of the things about cosmic smash booking is that it is such a wonderful tool for helping us deal with the things that are happening in our real life that could otherwise be difficult to cope with. And it was very interesting because I had a message in my inbox from last week. I didn't get around to dealing with it until I want to say yesterday afternoon. It was from a colleague whose wife had just successfully completed surgery for cancer. And he was speaking to the importance of remembering that we should always be compassionate and just assume people have stuff going on and not take it personally if responses are slow or whatever. It was a beautifully written message. And I finally had a little time yesterday to respond back to him on that. And I just thanked him for the message, mentioned that honestly, I would have had no clue. His professionalism had been absolutely immaculate. And what a beautiful reminder it was. And certainly not on that scale, but in its own way, the same kind of thing. Um, so I've mentioned before that the relationship with my parents is basically they've cut me out of their life, and but I've been trying to do little things to make sure that I am treating them the way that I feel, and not letting their choices affect me or change me any more than I can help it. So I my chickens have been laying a lot of eggs lately, and I decided I was going to bring a dozen eggs down to my parents, and I was just going to drop them off on the porch. And I had almost made a clean getaway. I was all the way across the driveway and up the stairs and heading to the side yard where my car was parked when my dad showed up on the porch. Hey, who is that? And 3 times I had to repeat myself. Uh, And finally, I had to take my mask off. I think he couldn't hear me well because of the mask and the distance. And then it was covering my face. But, the biggest thing was I haven't seen them in years. And so, of course, why would he recognize me? Why would my father recognize me? He hasn't seen me in years. And, there was no dementia. There's no major concerns there or whatever, but it stung. Obviously, something like that can really hurt. And today I had a couple of good conversations. I decided to make an intentional outreach to my friends on Facebook, actually, and I got a call from my sister in Cairo. Well, I had a text session with my sister in Cairo, but I was contacted by my sister, and I made a connection with one of my local friends here in town who said, "Hey, give me a call," and we started talking about this idea of um, the stigma that people often feel about asking for help and feeling that we don't want to be a burden, and how COVID has really exacerbated that. So even if you're not dealing with a situation like what I have with my parents, everybody is cut off. I was like, this, I need somebody besides my housemate, right? Sometimes you need other people to go to. And so that's the sort of the inquiry and the thread about, how can we um, make ourselves available for our friends, and our family, and let people know that we're there to support them. And conversely, where are the areas where we maybe need to be more willing to speak up and ask for help? So I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but that's what's on my heart today. And that's kind of what I wanted to share to open our session. And I would very gladly pass the red thread if there is anybody who would like to take it.
I can speak up a little bit on that.
Yeah.
It's been something I can take. I don't know where my red thread is, but I will take it from you. Um,
Yeah. Here you go. Here
the,
you go.
um,
Oh, let me unspotlight my video. Sorry, I'm working with this.
no worries.
So there we go. Okay.
No, it's interesting what you said just there because um, sometimes I definitely identify that. Sometimes I am so focused on not being a burden to other people, and then I feel and I feel like that is doing my part. Even though I feel like there is also I feel guilty when there is more that I could do for
Yeah.
others. But then some days it's all I can do to white knuckle my way through the day and not be a burden on anyone else.
Yep.
But at the same time, when it are moments when we're most vulnerable, um, those are when you make the deepest connections, and when you share your stories, and sort of sometimes being, keeping completely private doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve them, even though you think you're doing it for the greater good, martyring yourself you know on the altar of, sort of self-preservation, or what have you, is doesn't serve anyone. So yeah, I hear you, and I understand that, and it's a balance.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. And let's see. It looks like Caroline and Kathy are on mute at the moment. So, but I'll keep an eye out in the chat if you have anything that you guys would like to share. So, anyway, so now we get to continue playing with our books. And so what I would like to take out of that is, now as we go through our day and as we go through our weeks, the design of this book is such that you can just have some index cards and quickly jot down, asking for help, for example. And you don't have to make it anything fancy. Just quickly make a note that this is something that you want to for help. And the diagnosis that went with was really, I would say, isolation, right? Just make a couple of notes. Even if you don't have time to really design the inquiry and work with it. And tuck them in your pockets so that they're there for you to work with them when you're ready. In fact, I did that a couple of times with a couple of things, other things myself this weekend. I was reading Dr. Estes' chapter on the boundaries of rage and forgiveness. And so while that was not really something that I was working within my experience, certainly there was a lot of resonance for me in that theme. And I just dropped a couple of cards here, and I'm going to develop those, further when I'm called to. And then also excuse me, no, I think it was rage and descanso. And descanso is a concept which I would love to share with you another time. I'll probably do a session on that because that is, it's such a deep and rich concept. So that's a preview of something to come, probably the beginning of April, because that's National Poetry Writing Month, which I usually do every year. And I think I'm going to actually turn my April National Poetry Month into a descanso, a series of descanso poems. So, which is marker poems, memorializing times of grief or tragedy or trauma in our past. It doesn't have to be a poem, but it's a marker or a symbol or a ritual of some sort that we can create for ourselves. It's based on the markers that you see on the side of the highway where there's been a tragedy or an accident. You might see some little white crosses with some flowers around them and whatnot, where people memorialize something that happened, and turning that into a ritual for sort of a retrospective on our own experiences so that we can transform those. And then the other pair I had was impotence and forgiveness, actually, and feeling like you can't do anything. Um, so what I am going to be working on today is taking a set of those, and then I'm going to basically transform the card. And in some cases, I may just start on a completely fresh piece of paper so that, this will not be the final card that I put in my book. If I decide I want to sort of evolve the messaging and the inquiry. But I want to share this because this is actually a card that I created during my teacher training. And the medicine on this card is remembering. And so it says, this card prescribes an inquiry into your personal history to reclaim what has been lost and remember it back to life. And what I've got on here is, first of all, a red thread and a needle still attached to it. So I actually stitched this little bit of fabric onto the front, and the other bits of fabric are glued down with Mod Podge. But they are scraps of fabric from a crazy quilt that was created by my great grandmother. And so, and it was very tattered and dilapidated. And I was reclaiming that bit of work and adding new fabric on some of the more torn patches. But there were still little bits and scraps that I was able to cut away and reincorporate onto this card. So thinking about your medicine, try to connect it where you can to things that are meaningful to you from your own family and personal history and from things that you have around the house. And yeah, so this is one of the things. And so this now goes my um, into my prescriptions pocket as a finished prescription. And so that's what I'm going to be working on today, is working on my cards. And I invite you to continue working on your grounding pages. You can go back to your resting page that we created a couple of weeks ago, or work more on your cover. Wherever you feel called to work is totally fine, but that's what I'm working on today. And anybody else have anything that they would like to share, or any questions um, about the technique that I'm introducing for today? If not, I think I'm going to try and find some nice music to put on in the background, and we can just enjoy some time creating together. And oh my God, I love this little keyboard. Hmm. Oh, this is not my playlist. That's why I don't recognize the stuff that's on it. Here we go.
Shri Bhagavate Namah. Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Sameta Shri Bhagavate Namah. Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Sameta Shri Bhagavate Namah. Om Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Sameta Shri Bhagavate Namah. Hari Om Tat Sat. 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 Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om Tat Sat Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namaha Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namaha Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatama Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namaha Hari Om
All right, I am going to pause the music there. We've got about another 12 minutes left in our time together. And so, Caroline, thank you for pointing out that I had the spotlight on the wrong camera. I actually caught that as well, but long after you warned me about it. I was too busy having a good time making my cards, I guess. So I'll show you guys what I did with that in a little bit. Maybe give it another, I don't know, do you guys want to take another 5 minutes and just use the last 5 minutes or so to share what we've worked on? Yeah? Okay, so. All right, everybody, give it about 1 more minute, and then I'm going to turn the cameras back on all of us and see what you all have been up to and might want to share for your work tonight. I'm going to give you a quick explanation of what I'm working on here. This is not my medicine cabinet book, but it's an interesting technique nonetheless. So I've got some various Palmer's Easter egg candy wrappers, and I had known I wanted to start bringing some color into this book. That's very black and white, red and gold, but it's time to bring more color. And so these candy wrappers caught my eye today, and what I found is they make an interesting collage material to make a mosaic. So I'm going to continue adding bits and pieces. I did find that it really helps to smooth these out, their fingernail or burnishing tool, before I apply the Mod Podge to the back and the Mod Podge here, and then I put another layer over the top of it. I don't know if clear gesso would work, but it might. I probably will add a layer of clear gesso over the top of this once I'm done creating my foil mosaic. And that will allow me to add additional layers of paint or whatever I might want to add onto it. It'll sort of refresh the surface. The Mod Podge does have a really slick surface and it can be hard to paint over the top of it. So that's just what I was working on, because the other stuff that I started out working on and that I forgot to put my camera on for was drawing. And so these are my cards. I decided to work on the ones that were sort of most closely related to where I'm at today. And I did something kind of fun with them. Beneath them, I just put a piece of multimedia, mixed media paper, and I kind of used that as a palette. And I placed my two cards on the page like this, and I worked with the paint from this paper palette until I was happy with the imagery I had. So this is for isolation, and this is for asking for help. And I'm looking forward to. I'll spend a little more time on that, formulating the inquiries. What I'll probably do is go into a journal page now and take these cards and write out some thoughts on both the isolation, how to recognize when that's the problem you're having, and then some thoughts on reaching out for help. And then I'll take some of those thoughts from that journal writing on the next page in my medicine cabinet book, and I'll sort of transfer them to these cards so that even as I add layers over it, but I keep the nuggets of wisdom of inquiry that are coming up out of my journaling process. And then I took the extra paint and I just smashed it around to cover my palette. And that's kind of fun. That could become maybe a background for another painting, or maybe I'll fold it over and turn it into a journal cover. I like to make little handmade journals as well sometimes. So um, yeah, that's what I was working on, and I'm sorry I didn't have my camera on for that. It was pretty neat to see how it evolved, and I would love to know if anybody else would like to share. So, and if not, that's fine too. But it'd be fun to see what you're all working on if that's possible.
I stuck with my grounding page today
Uh-huh.
because I felt like it could use another layer.
Hmm.
Also, I started writing out the cards, and I liked, I have these colored index cards. And, sort of on one hand, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to paint over them. On the other hand, um, anyway, I just wasn't ready. But I wrote down some of the things you wrote down because I liked them, and they're not necessarily things that I would have thought of my own. So the isolation and I've got bravery, I've got courage, I've got action, I've got bravery again. So there's obviously something on my mind. Um,
Yeah.
but but also the other thing I was thinking with the cards, I just sort of wasn't set up to work on it that way. But after what you talked about with your family, I've got, I'm trying to be minimalist, and I have all these family pictures, and I've scanned them all and I've sent them to people, but I've got these ones now where I just don't need the physical copies.
Yeah.
And so the idea of like sort of using my family pictures on some of these cards appeals to me, but also on the other hand, I also find it somewhat disturbing.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
so
maybe good for a diagnosis card then.
right, exactly. It's like your mom do this,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Actually, that's a very good idea.
yeah. Well, the people we're closest to tend to, whether you call it a karmic relationship or just they know how to push our buttons, right? And
Yeah.
so that's a really, really powerful. That's a really powerful idea to incorporate images like that from your. Um, I'm so tired. My brain is fried. Sorry. Anyway, but there you go. Yep. Um, and let's see. And I know that Caroline and Kathy are both kind of on mute today, so I'm checking the chat to see if they have anything to share. And do you want to show us where you're at with your grounding page, and maybe was there anything um, in that regard that was kind of fun or interesting that came up in the actual layers that you started adding there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, oh wait, we got Kathy showing hers too. We'll go be right with you, Kathy. So yeah,
The fingers are a little long and scary.
yeah, yeah.
But
Cool.
it's nice to just sort of, I like sort of doing washes and going back into the washes and outlining the washes with
Yeah.
sort of darker. I find something very just soothing about that. And then sort of listening to the music you were playing, I was like, and having a little wine, I'm like, this is lovely. I could do.
Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you. And then I'm gonna switch over to Kathy, and there we go. Oh, I love the patterns you've got there going on, the full of life and like vines and greenery. And yeah, this is a very rich grounding page that you're creating here. I really look forward to um, maybe you can go into the Facebook group and share a little bit about some of the messages that are coming through with that for you and whatnot. Wonderful, wonderful imagery there. So nice. Thank you so much. All right. Well, um, So thank you so much for coming. And I just want to thank you guys, especially because this is my third certification requirement class. So after today, I will, well, sometime after today, I should get confirmation from Kat that I am a certified cosmic smash booking guide and no longer just a guide in training. So that's, oh, and there's Domino coming to say hello and to all of you guys. Or actually, she's a great cat to have around for cosmic smash booking work because her tail is always curled like a question mark. So she seems like the inquiry cat extraordinaire to me. So anyway, thank you. I hope that we'll see you again soon, maybe next week or whenever you're able to join us again. And thank you again. Um, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but I'll leave the window open for a little while longer in case anybody's kind of in a flow and enjoying what they've got going on. Maybe put some music on, and we can just enjoy each other's company for a little bit longer.